Welcome or welcome back to the Light Renegades. My name is Starr. Thank you so much for joining me today, everyone. To those that might be new, we are the Light Renegades. We are a collective of Pleiadian beings bringing you information from the stratospheres that are ever expanding, who are disclosing cosmic secrets and hopefully bringing forward information that's going to help you stand ever more in your sovereignty and in your power. That being said, if you are here for the first time, thank you for joining us and welcome. I'm going to be reading a pre-channeled message today from Bowie, and this is not the first time that I've brought forward some information from a soul that has already previously passed. You can go and head over to our playlist to find more of information from such beings and beings that have been in the public eye specifically. But I want to apologize, everyone, because when this channeling came through, I feel like I wasn't in my capacities to be pushing this soul a little bit deeper in their expression. I was really tired when they stepped forward, and I think that they did that with purpose. But I'm going to have to make sure that I spend a little bit more time with David before I receive this next channeling for you all, because I think they've reached a state and a space in their expression where they're finding it difficult to bring all of this information forward. And somewhere I was really pressing them yesterday, because I said, I feel like you are not taking a stand of full responsibility of where you find yourself. And specifically when I was reading through this channeling again, I could feel the pockets of energy where they're trying to potentially, I want to say, shift the blame outside of self. And I thought, this is not what you're here to do in this space. So I've really been having to coax them into really taking full responsibility for their actions somewhere. And, you know, that's a very uncomfortable position for me to be in somewhere. But I definitely felt like I was having to just put a little bit of pressure on this soul the last couple of days from this channeling, because I thought, actually, what you're saying here is incredibly important, and I'm incredibly grateful for them, but I could feel that there was just a pocket where they're not accepting fully the position that they played here. And, you know, I'm very much a soul that understands that at certain times in your life you feel like you can't say no to certain things because you fear for your life. And I want to say, you know, at some point upon this journey, right now, this life path, I just had to decide that my life didn't mean that much to me. And if this meant that my life would end bringing this information forward, I had to say yes to that. So for me, when I was reading this channeling back, when I was sat in that energy, I thought, well, you know, there's a part of me that just wouldn't have been able to turned a blind eye. And, you know, that's unfair on them, because there are life paths where I've done this exact same situation, but I just felt myself be a little bit irked, if I'm being honest with you, everyone. So I do want to have more time with them. They didn't want to commune with me after yesterday when I applied a bit more pressure, and I completely understood that. And they're still growing in their space of this fractal of information, fractal of energy where we're getting our information from. So it's been a bit of a tug and a pull this week with energy, and please bear with me, because I do tap into David's energy when I'm channeling, and I've been finding it difficult to try and run through this. Like I said, I think they are struggling in their space to come to terms with the aspects that they're having to share with the collective right now, and understandably so. And they know that I hold them in so much compassion and so much love and in so much light. But yeah, I found myself getting a little bit irked, and I think that some of you in the collective might as well within this expression. But the channeling from a few nights ago from David Bowie was titled My Time, and they started with, thank you all for showing up today. I just want to hop right in. There were times in my life where I had given up on finding the energy that was inside of me that I couldn't explain. As I've stated before, I went to many beautiful places to understand what I was feeling. But I must admit to you all here that nothing was shown to me of worth, or that's at least how I perceived it at the time. This is what led me back to the magic, and this is what led me to the teachings of many, but in particular that of Aleister Crowley. I always felt led by a higher source. I always felt ignited by something that shone so bright, but I think I never truly believed in myself enough to claim my own inherent power. Somewhere, that, although it doesn't seem like it, I was on the outside, showing myself bright, but I was also hiding. Of course, I was out there. I was just being me. But at some point, I decided to hide, and that came through the measures of extremes. By now, most of you all that know me here will know and be aware of the time that I took away to get clean and get healthy and get back on the straight and narrow. Truth is, that's not what happened at all. I did get clean. However, I had already been infiltrated. I had become a puppet. There was many nights I spent in LA, in many rooms with a variety of colours of characters, to put it politely, and believe me, I enjoyed all the colours and all the shapes. I enjoyed living, like I'd said before, But there was a side to me, an unquenchable thirst, because I couldn't allow for myself to sink into my own skin. It's hard to put into words, but I found it difficult to exist in my own body, as it didn't feel necessary or mine. That wasn't until I heard or played the music. It genuinely felt like this was what my body was here to do. I kept running away from me. As I've stated before, the drugs-induced days, this is when I felt most alive and not dead on the inside. Those days were when it felt normal to be here. I felt so different for most of my life. I think somewhere I was desperate to feel complete like so many others did around me, or at least seemingly to. But I couldn't just be the norm. My energy wouldn't allow it. I caught bad habits and I had to decide to put an end to them. But as I stated before, by then it was just too late. The people of the color spectrum told me that I was special, told me that I had been chosen, that surely that I'd felt it, and I did believe them. Somewhere I was terrified too, that witches were after me, and I promise you this is no myth, this is the truth. This really happened. They wanted me to be part of their ritual. I wasn't willing to take a life, and that's what they wanted. They told me that they wanted me to watch a sacrifice, and I refused. But this wasn't the first time, and somewhere it just starts to become part of the whole ordeal of it all. The higher you climb, the more that is revealed. It's true to you. The more that is revealed to you, it's true to you. You either comply or turn a blind eye. That's the only way to make it, to stay alive. And I hate to admit it, but by the end, I was afraid to not matter anymore. I was afraid that I would be forgotten, and somewhere all the decisions I'd made behind closed doors came back to haunt me. As I've said, I didn't ever kill another, but I was privy to a lot of information that I should have shouted out about. But you just don't. It's impossible to make full sense of it. It just seems unreal at the time. I knew what I was getting myself into when I decided to take a look into the dark depths of the occult, and it made sense to me, but the voices begin to get louder and louder. They tell you that you must do this and that in order to keep what you have going alive. I practiced ritual behind closed doors for many, many years. Blood sacrifice was shed, and I didn't feel two ways about it. It felt like the right thing to do at the time. I wasn't aware that I was serving energies outside of myself to the degree that I was. I saw the shadows as my friends. I saw the darkness as just a part of all that had to exist. I didn't believe, or maybe I didn't want to, that I was doing something all that terrible. But I guess if I'm honest, fear was the driving force for me somewhere too. You do start to believe your own hype sometimes, and it's hard not to. But I also wasn't me anymore. I just didn't know it at the time, but I wasn't. I become part of them. The hive mind is real and it runs deep. But there are some like me that didn't make it to the super, super dark rooms. We had enough to stand a little farther back, and others knew that we wouldn't be persuaded. But I've done some things that I'm not proud of, and this is what we shall touch upon next time. But I think that enough for today. And apologies everyone, because I was so tired when I received this channeling from David, and I just didn't have it in me to kind of press in some places that I perhaps should have. And upon reading this today, yesterday I went through kind of what was stepping forward, and I just thought there are some spaces where, I have ultimate compassion for this being. I really, really do, but I can see where they're just not facing themselves truly, and I'm trying to sit in more compassion and love and light for them at this time. But I think that they have to be true to themselves, because to me at least, sitting in their energy, I can feel those pressure points of, the things that held them back. And I think somewhere it's upsetting for me too, because I've definitely felt in the notions that David is speaking on. For the majority of my life, I was taking a lot of drugs from quite a young age, and that's because I just didn't know how to exist here. I didn't know how to be here, and this idea of feeling like my body just wasn't mine or necessary was definitely something that I felt a lot of my life. I suffered with a lot of EDs too, and I think that was a dissociation from my body. So I think somewhere, I can see myself in this expression, and I can also see the spaces where I still tried my best to look after so many around me. And, I think the soul is going to have to take responsibility for some spaces before they can come to a true representation of them. And, I felt sorry for them somewhere, because I could feel that they were worried about how I was perhaps perceiving them and judging them. And, somewhere I have been judging them. I have to be honest in that there is an essence within me, of course, that we are fighting this good fight against the negative reptilian somewhere. So it's been difficult for me to sit back and just hear, how this soul partook in some aspects of that, and all these souls that do turn a blind eye and choose not to say anything. But I understand that you feel your life is on the line, and perhaps those that you care about too, and perhaps I'd be in a very different expression, although I feel like this is where I've been this lifetime. And it's that fear that holds you back, it's that fear that holds you trapped. And I've had beings visit my family, multiple family members at this point, and none of them are afraid. And because they stand so strongly in the light, half my family is really heavily Christian, and they believe that no matter what happens, they are going somewhere beautiful. And I think that is something that is missed in all spaces of delving into, I think, darker practices, is this idea of that a lot of these beings, they partake in a lot of dark things, but then they actually fear, the passing and the over to the other side, because they believe that either there is nothing or there is fire and brimstone waiting for them. So to me, somewhere, it just doesn't make any sense. And I'm grateful for David Bowie stepping forward, because this is going to very much circle us right back around again to Aleister Crowley when it is time, because I think there are some aspects of that soul that actually wants to step forward and share a little bit more about their truth too, because we weren't given the full spectrum of their colouring either. And this is definitely something that I've been researching behind the scenes and looking forward to sharing with you all, because Aleister Crowley had many faces and many sides, and this idea of the occult, just isn't all dark, is what I want to share. And this idea of that the shadows being our friends, and that just being a part of all that exists, I've definitely had to slip into that notion. You can partake in the darkness series to understand where I was, and getting to know the dark and getting to know specifically Luciferian energy somewhere. But there is still this aspect of the dark that isn't helpful for us here, and this was something that I keep having to say no to time and time again. There was a string of this energy that I know very well, and that it has the power to coerce me somewhere. And I've been this close in some spaces, to potentially saying yes to things that might have been detrimental to myself and to some around me. And I just have to keep sinking into this notion of that I know what is best for me in heart and mind and soul, and I know my heart to be so strong and so true at this moment in time. But there were previous lives where I did say yes to a lot of these things, and I do have to hold my hands up to that. So I'm going to try not to come down so hard on David in this meantime before getting this next channeling to you all. But I definitely felt act in this space, and there was definitely some personal triggers within this as well, so I'm having to take that into account. There's been an alignment here within my own personal journey that I just didn't see coming. So yeah, I'm having space, I'm taking time, and I'm taking space to really delve into my own shadow too. We do have shadow season hot on our heels. We have the first eclipse moon coming up on Friday the 14th. Well, actually that's going to be today when I post this video with you all. So just be aware of that too. And I've definitely been in a lot of emotional spaces this week, and I thought, okay, this is a next layer to my expression and my own personal disclosure too, because I'm having to face spaces where I was saying yes to some of these things too. So I think there has been a mirroring of my expression too that I found triggering, so I'm having to take responsibility of that. But I'm holding the soul in so much heart, and I'm so grateful for them stepping forward. But it's difficult sometimes to hear these things, and to just be accepting somewhere. So the human part of me is taking over. Obviously the higher self and the galactic expression understand these realms very well. So I look forward to what the soul is sharing with us next time. And I do hold them in ultimate love and compassion, but I would be lying to say if I didn't get triggered this week. And that's with purpose to me working through this space is helping the collective. So please do go easy, please go well. If you do have any questions, please do not hesitate to reach out. And if you do find yourself in a space of occult understandings right now, darker practices right now, and you're not entirely sure what you might have gotten yourself into, something that has been made aware to me this week is that I'm very much here for that expression too, which I think is something I've been gearing up for upon this path. But I've had some incidences happen in the most recent days where I thought, okay, this is really a lot of why I'm here. There is a lot of the expression of, I guess, deliverance somewhere from a neutral standpoint, not pulling religion into that space, but just allowing for souls to step ever more into their light of varying degrees, because I do believe that some souls are here in the darker expression and have to be. We're getting to a wider topic of expression here, something I can speak absolutely hours about at this point. But I'm here to support you in your spaces is what I want to share. I know the dark very well. The dark knows me also very well, which has been something that I found found interesting the more that I've stepped more into my power in this space, and specifically in the last few months, because I can see where I get sent into spaces and the dark looks at me like it knows me, and then just at the very last second I have to switch face, and then they realize, oh wait, she's here to work for the light, but by that time I've already pulled them into the light with me. And I think this is something that has taken some souls off guard, and this has been part of my expression of being here. I know the dark just as much as I know the light, and that's been with purpose for many of my lifetimes building up into this point. So I'm incredibly grateful for where I find myself right now in terms of my own personal understanding, because in some parts of this path I just had no idea what was going on. And for 2023, 2024, end of 2022, I was just completely catapulted into a space of the dark that I just didn't know or believed to be true, perhaps didn't want to believe was true somewhere, and I just didn't know what was happening. So I'm grateful to be on the other side of that and understanding why I got taken to those spaces, so that I could have this full understanding of the scope of where I've been in previous lives, partaking in these sacrifices, partaking in a lot of bloodshed, partaking in killing souls for my own personal gain, riches, fame, all of that stuff, and being able to understand these souls that do step forward and trying to hold the most utmost amounts of compassion that I do have. And I find it incredibly difficult, when I step into spaces of having to partake in mainstream media, because I just see the darkness written all over everyone's faces, and it's quite alarming to me at this point, how other people just can't see it. But I forget how far I've come in my processes, and I really have to hold everyone in compassion and knowing that they're exactly where they're supposed to be, even these souls that are stepping forward and perhaps showing their darkest hand right now. This is helping us all ascend. So I'm really trying to check myself in this space, to be honest with you, and I very much feel like my shadow is stepping out. So apologies, the next couple of weeks might be a little bit testy within my own space too, but I'm here for you is what I want to share. The no part of me is judging you in your spaces, because I have no right to do that, and I step forward offering my hand to anyone that is out there. And we all are here to push and trigger and test each other at times, so please know that whatever you've done, it was there for a purpose, it was there for a reason, and you now perhaps know better so that you can do better. No one is absolved, no one is unable to be absorbed into the light. It's always just a matter of you saying yes to that. And if you are afraid of your spaces, I promise you the light is far more powerful than anything the dark can be at this time. And this is definitely something that I'm being told time and time again, and specifically now, have no fear in your spaces, and please do step forward if you are struggling. We are completely here to support you and help you. But I think that best be all for myself and David today. I'm going to try and get a little bit more time with this soul with this next week coming up, because I have been quite busy across the board, but I'm grateful for this soul stepping forward. But I think we're going to have some heart-to-heart discussions so that we can come to a more even ground together, because I'm feeling triggered in my space too, everyone, if I'm being completely honest. But that's all for myself and David Bowie today. I hope that you've enjoyed this channeling and this information. I'll be back real soon. Take care.